Now, anyone who takes an honest look at the conflict in Ukraine knows that this is really a battle between the United States and Russia, in West versus East. This is just one manifestation of that struggle. What we are really looking at is the decline of Western producers and the rise of Eastern producers. This is a fight over the future of energy resources and markets, and possibly even more importantly, the petrodollar. It's important to understand this conflict as something much wider than merely Ukraine violating treaties and attempting to join NATO. It's much more than protecting the civilians of Donbass from Ukrainian Nazi-controlled artillery. The media, both East and West, are hiding the real source of this conflict: capitalism. This is a battle between East and West, and which collections of capitalist interests are going to dominate the global energy market for the next several decades to come. Right now, what we're looking at in this battle is the breakup of supply lines for natural gas and oil that have existed for decades, most of them formed after the end of the Soviet Union. As it stands right now, Europe is planning to block all seaborne Russian oil in economic retaliation. In addition, new sanctions will demand that customers of Russian oil accept a U.S.-determined cap on prices. If they don't agree to the U.S. price setting of Russian oil, they're not allowed to have it. It also places a block on European countries from insuring Russian vessels. Despite the best of U.S. efforts, there has hardly been any effect on Russian oil exports. This means that the Kremlin's oil income has continued unabated, thus fueling further funding for the conflict in Ukraine. As the U.S. has blocked some European countries from buying their oil, Russia has found new customers. Meanwhile, in the United States, oil prices continue to see a great deal of volatility. Even many Western allies who are not primarily producers, but those who receive their oil from U.S. and U.S.-aligned countries. Now, they are experiencing this instability while Russia is experiencing increased stability. And that's largely due to the fact that their government has a large amount of control over their oil and gas production, creating that stability. Now, Saudi Arabia has joined the Russian side. Now, they have not said that they did. In fact, they declare that they have tried to remain neutral, but very much in the substance of what they do, they are not remaining neutral whatsoever. They have deliberately scaled back oil production, which has caused an increase in oil prices in the United States and essentially U.S.-aligned markets, particularly the U.S. itself. The twofold effect is clear. Long-held supply chains are collapsing while U.S. reserves of oil are reaching historical lows. The releasing of these stores has lowered the price somewhat, but they have a limit, say when they run out. Globally, there has been interference in the price. Now, the Brent crude, which is the general standard by which everybody goes by, went from $120 a barrel to $85 a barrel. Now, one thing that has given relief to this situation has been China's zero-COVID policy. Obviously, as they have lockdowns, they require less oil. Less demand equals a better price for those who do remain in wanting it. But this zero-COVID policy is not going to last forever. And the day it comes to an end, there's going to be a massive spike in oil prices. This policy by the U.S. Treasury to demand price caps on Russian oil are a further attempt to rein in the price of oil. The U.S. and U.K. dominate the insurance industry with regards to coverage of oil tankers. They cap how much Russia can make on oil, and they preserve their own prices simultaneously. Now, many economic commentators have also noted that this appears to be also an effort to curb inflation globally, which is very heavily tied to the price of oil. Many Gulf states have accused the U.S. of acting irresponsibly. They claim that the U.S. policy of increasing production while decreasing price has hindered efforts to invest, which, as a result, they claim, have made them vulnerable to instability in the market, which they are facing right now. Both sides Russia and the United States are accusing each other of weaponizing oil prices or energy prices in general, which, in all honesty, both of them actually are doing. Both of them are taking tremendous efforts to manipulate the market in their favor. But this isn't something as basically simple as capitalist competition. We are looking at national capitals, a collection of capitalists in one geographical region trying to exert pressure on a group of capitalists in another geographical region. So it's like a team deathmatch over oil. Now, this historically has caused a great deal of problems, like World War I and World War II. This is essentially the beginnings of what imperialism is, the conflict between nations over profitability. And because energy resources play a massive role in the global economy, I mean, you can't move anything without it. Everything is tied to energy and, of course, the ability to move it. It makes it insanely powerful. You know, you control the energy of a country and you control the entire country, basically. And that's what we're really looking at right now. Many of these Eastern powers who have been in a disadvantaged position for a very long time because of the United States, because of the petrodollar, and because of U.S. hegemonic economic power in general, are rising up. They're looking at ways to undermine the U.S. in order to put their own influence and their own profitability in. This is not some kind of utopian notion of the East somehow being better than the West. This isn't socialism versus capitalism. This is capitalism versus capitalism. And then we, as the working class, don't benefit from it. We get stomped on either way, and the massive profits still go to the capitalist. The poor will continue to remain poor, and the rich will continue to remain rich. There's no interest in this for us whatsoever. I'm sure it might be a little bit better, or we'd be in a little bit better position if the West wins, and they would be in a bit better position if the East wins. But as a class interest in the whole, nothing changes. We end up right back where we started. We just replaced one capitalist master with another. This is very far from some kind of utopian notion that good is now prevailing over evil, or Eurasian holier-than-thou-ness is now going to triumph over U.S. manifest destiny. They're both essentially capitalist ideologies. They both serve the rich and suppress the poor. We don't really have much of a dog in this fight at all. In fact, imperialist wars pretty much only benefit the imperialists. And it's not like they're the ones that have to go into the military and end up dying in the wars. That's us who have to do that. So it's really best to understand this situation, understand the geopolitical and economic interests going on here before one simply mindlessly cheerleads one side or another. You can go join the NFAO if you want. You can go simp for Russia and Putin if you want, but you would be taking an unscientific stance. And that is not something that we as Marxists do. And that's primarily who this video is for, other Marxists. Liberals are going to lib. Conservatives going to conservatize, and fascists going to fash. But we're the ones who take the scientific approach. And this is what we need to understand about this situation, so that we don't fall into some, nonsense trap where we just have to support the East because their Eurasian fascism is better than Western neoliberal fascism. That is downright idiotic. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.